Hey guys, welcome back. What is up? Today we are talking about branded Tearlaments, the combination of branded and Tearlaments as the name already implies. I personally think this is a really cool deck as I am a big fan of the branded strategy. Unfortunately, and I talked about this in the Maxi video a couple of days ago, the branded strategy is always a bit hindered by the prevalence of Ash because getting your branded fusion ashed is quite the pain. So I think this deck has some cool options to play around that. If your branded fusion gets ashed, you still have your core of Tearlament cards that it can do work for you, can put in some work for you. So I think it's a really cool deck. I will show you some replays after we talk about the deck and I show you the deck list, or I read out the names of the cards. To be more precise, I also think that the Tearlaments deck in like only playing Tearlaments is the stronger version. I would say this version could be stronger than the pure branded version, but there are a lot of cool interactions here. That's why this deck is fine and it works quite well, I would say. And I will show you in a replay how impressive a board you can build, and that's a board you cannot even build with pure Tearlaments, I would say, but I will show you in the replay. So one thing also that I would like to mention about the branded strategy is this is a really solid core to pick up if you are looking for a good strong deck that will be good and strong in the future. This is the first deck I got here in Master Duel, and I have to say that this has the most awesome secret pack that there is. In this secret pack, like what is called Alba's Abyss, there are 8 ultra rares and 7 of them you can use or you need for your branded strategy. That's just crazy. There's only one other card, which is not a bad card, Nadir's Servant, but this is not really important for your deck. But 7 out of the 8 ultra rares you can pull from there are important for the deck. It's crazy. It's such a cheap deck, though it's not really cheap. There are a lot of ultra rares you need, but you have such an awesome secret pack. So this is a super safe investment because there are a lot of support cards coming for branded and a lot of good ones in the next set, in the set after that, and even in the set that it comes out in the TCG now. Like at this point there are even more support cards for branded. So what we are basically getting here for the next like at least half a year is more support and good support for the branded strategy. So getting this deck will be safe, I would say, for maybe another whole year until it may become a bit weaker because Konami really likes to support this deck. But let's go over the card, let's go over the deck list. We have 2 Despian Tragedy, this is a basic branded card. We have 1 Herald of the Orange Light, obviously to get the Shufflers into the grave or to get the Tearlament cards into the grave. You can also get the other cards in the grave. Oh no, sorry, you cannot get the Tearlament cards in the grave. You need to discard fairies, so the Shufflers, but also maybe your Aluba to have it in the grave to fusion summon or whatever. Then you have triple Maxi, nothing to say here. You have 2 Tearlament Merly, you have 2 King of the Swarm. This is quite awesome because you can discard this to get your fusion, your polymerization to the hand and then make some plays. But of course, this is also good to make basically every fusion monster you have in here. You can substitute it for the Tearlament cards to get your Kit colors or maybe your Rue colors, so you could replace the Kit colors here. Or you can also replace something like a Despia monster, you can replace the Fallen of Albus. So this is really strong and replaces a lot of cards. Then we have Triple Ash, nothing to say here, just a strong card. 2 Halfness, 2 Fallen of Albus, of course you need this for every fusion card or every important fusion card in your exo deck also. Always keep in mind the second effect of this card, or like basically the main effect of this card. Obviously the main reason this is in here is because you need it for Lubellion and for Albion and also for Mirror Jade. But the other thing is that if it's normal or special summoned, you can discard 1 card and then fusion summon with the Fallen of Albus and the enemy's monster on the enemy's field. This is super strong and is one of the strongest on summon effects here in the deck. Then we have 2 Aluba. I think this can go to 3. They can really unban it. They can also unban the branded opening because Branded Despia is not that uber strong and is always a bit hindered by the prevalence of Ash in the meta game. So Aluba at 2, this searches all of your branded cards, will mainly search your branded fusion of course. 1 Ecclesia to get your Fallen of Albus to the field and then use this basically as a super polymerization, because super polymerization is basically the same effect as Fallen of Albus is, only difference being that for the Fallen of Albus fusion you need to use the Fallen of Albus. Then we have 2 Sharon, nothing to say here. You can get these cards to the grave, you can get the other Tearlaments cards to the grave. In my opinion, this is the strongest Tearlament normal monster. I always thought Hafnis was the strongest. You could also make a case for Rhinoheart. I think all in all, Merly is the weakest, the most useless. Also, this is still strong, but I think Sharon is really awesome because it can get everything to the grave. You have your Shufflers in here. This is, of course, to be strong against other Tearlament mirrors, because the Shufflers are the cards that break your Tearlament opponent. You do not need the millers yourself, as the branded core does not really take an advantage of being milled to the graveyard, and you also have your mills from your normal Tearlaments. That's enough. Then you had add a Libitum of Despia. This is, of course, to make the Guardian Chimera combo, or to get your Mirror Jade back on the field once you have used the effect of it. Then we have Polymerization. Polymerization just works with basically every card in here. You can also make your Guardian Chimera. Also, Guardian Chimera, when Polymerization is in the graveyard, is protected by it. It says here on the bottom, while Polymerization is in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, which is strong because it has 3300 attack and defense. Then we have Instant Fusion. Enjoy the last days of Instant Fusion to make your Kid Colors or your Muttering of the Swamp, and then it will be gone. Obviously, triple Branded Fusion, and I have to say, this is one of my favorite cards in terms of art design, of artwork. I think it's such a cool, such an awesome looking card. So strong. This card is so strong, but unfortunately, obviously, it gets destroyed by Ash Blossom. You could argue that you can fit some Called by the Grave in here, but there is no space in this list. If you have another Super Poly, you can put another Super Poly in here. I only have one and didn't want to craft another one. Obviously, just to say this at this point, you can get your Branded Fusion from the graveyard via your Despian Tragedy or via your Branded Retribution back to hand, back to field. Always keep this in mind. You can recycle this even if it gets lost to the graveyard or gets ashed. Then we have Bandit Opening, super strong card, discard 1 card, and this is cool because this discard 1 card works with your Shufflers because then they are in grave. It works with your Tearlaments because then you can fusion summon. Also works obviously with King of Swamp because it's in the grave then. Branded in red, this is just super strong. You tend to get this via your Albion on your end phase, so you can activate it on your opponent's turn, get back your Ad Libitum of Despia, then make a Guardian Chimera. This normally also gets you your Mirror Jade back on the field, and just a super strong combo, mainly enabled by Branded in red. Then we have Branded Banishment, which is like super awesome because you can fusion summon with your opponent's fields, meaning that you can, for example, re-summon one of your Despia monsters, for example, say the Ad Libitum of Despia, then you can target your opponent's Rule Colors, for example, or their Kid Colors, their Kaleido Heart, and then you can make your Mirror Jade, which is one of the strongest boss monsters there is in the game, I would say. Then we have Branded Retribution, main reason being that when this is in the graveyard, you can banish it to get a branded spell or trap back to your hand. This also, when a spell or trap or card is activated or monster effect is activated, that includes an effect that special summons a monster, you can return to the extra deck 1 face-up fusion monster you control or 2 fusion monsters in your graveyard that mention Fallen of Albas, and if you do, negate the activation. This also can come up at some times, but the main reason for playing this is to get it into the grave. And then we have Saliak, which of course is just an awesome trap. We are not playing more Tearlament traps or spells because we have not that many Tearlament names here in the deck. For the extra deck, we have Mud Dragon, the Kid Colors, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. This is an awesome target for Super Poly. We have the Platter Plant Dragostapelia, 2 Albion, which you basically use over Lubellion if you have more like fusion materials on the field and in the graveyard. Otherwise, at the start of the game, you mostly go for the Lubellion. Then we have Despian Coertes, 2 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon, which if you can get them on the field is super strong, especially against Tearlaments, because they tend to need to do a lot of things, a lot of activating effects and stuff to get their plays rolling, and if they always have to pay for that, then they are basically dying. Then we have the core card of the deck, the Mirror Jade. Also the artwork, guys, isn't this card just the coolest? This is also the reason why this card looks so cool, because there is the Rebellion and the Mirror Jade on the card, and those two have awesome artworks. Yeah, so Mirror Jade is super awesome. You want to go in this as often as you can. You can banish 1 card on the field by sending 1 card from your extra deck to the graveyard. You want to send your Albion, because when this is in the grave at the end of the turn, this can search your branded spell, put it onto the field. That is super strong. And also, if this card goes to the graveyard, because of an opponent's card, it just destroys every monster your opponent controls in the end phase. So yeah, you always have to play around the Mirror Jade. when you're playing against it. And also keep in mind, if you have used this effect here, you cannot use it again in this turn. But if you summon another Mirror Jade, another copy of Mirror Jade, or even the same, when this goes to the graveyard to summon it back with the Ad Libitum, then you can use the effect again, which comes up oftentimes. Then we have the Lubellion, which is your basic combo starter. You go into this with your Branded Fusion, then discard one card and fusion into your Mirror Jade most of the time. Rule Colors and the Guardian Chimera, which is super strong, a super strong play with the Branded in red, but can also be a play with the Poly. Keep in mind that you need monsters on your field and in your hand, and you can only use these monsters to fusion summon. Must be first fusion summon using only fusion materials from your hand and field, so you cannot use Super Poly to use your enemies' monsters to make a Guardian Chimera. Keep this in mind. So yeah, this is the deck list. I think this is a really cool deck. As I already said, if you are new to the game and want to pick up a strong deck that is fun, that is cool, that has cool monsters in it, cool artwork, plays a cool way, and is strong for the future and right now, pick up the Branded strategy. It's easy to get in terms of having a super good secret pack. But without further ado, let's hop in some replays to show you how strong the deck is. So the first replay I've got for you is to show you what this deck can accomplish and what kind of endboard you can build if everything goes according to plan. We are getting max seed, but we have the Ash here, and then obviously we are now starting with the instant fusion to get into our kit colors. We are ashing this, this does not get through. Main phase 1, we are using instant fusion, go into the kit colors. This is a no-brainer and an obvious play. We are activating the kit, and at this point, normally in a Tearlament deck you would then go for Scream or maybe the Trap, but my plays were limited here, so I decided to go for the basic Merly Mill 8. We are taking the Merly, activating this effect to get this to the graveyard and summon the Merly, activate this Chaining 1, this Chaining 2 to protect ourselves from a potential Harvest. Chaining 2, then we are milling 8, first mill 5, then mill 3, this happens now, mill 5, mill 3, let's look at the graveyard. And also, yesterday I talked with a friend who plays Tearlament about playing Tearlament, and if you mill something when playing Tearlament, look at the graveyard to check for what you have milled. Do not, like, if there is, for example, no, we have not hit any fusion cards, but if you have hit a fusion card or maybe more fusion cards, then do not just activate them, but look for what you can fusion summon, because sometimes you have to make a fusion summon with materials that you do not want to fusion summon with because you have not looked at your graveyard. Always check for shufflers, always check for millers, and always check your opponent's graveyards if you mill 5 for both. So these were our mills. We have Saliak here and the Desperate Tragedy. Activating both, Desperate Tragedy gets us the Aluba, and the Saliak will get us another monster, which will be Shairen. Get Aluba to the hand, get Shairen to the hand. Now we can normal summon the Aluba to search for the Branded Fusion, which normally always gets ashed. We are lucky here though. We Branded Fusion, and we Branded Fusion for our Albion. So this I mentioned in the deck profile. We have a lot of material here on the field, in the hand, in the graveyard, so that's why I'm going for the Albion here. Now we can activate Albion. Fusion summon, we are using the kit and the Albas. Note here, to make the Mirror Jade by the way, note here that I wanted to make a strong end board. Otherwise you would not banish the kit colors, because you need your kit colors for your other plays. But I was counting on this game will be over in 1 or 2 turns. For a long grind game, do not banish the kit colors. I activate Shairen, summon, put the Harvest here, and we also mill a Merly. So we have 2 fusion summons available for us, and I was thinking, okay, I have enough material to use them both. Always check this, always check your fusion deck, and think about what can I fusion summon here. I was like, okay, I have enough Despian monsters here, so I can basically go for 2. Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon, which is super strong, but always check your fusion summon, guys. Do not just fusion summon because you can. So first Merly, we are fusioning summon into our first Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon. And our second summon, fusion summon we've got here, we also go with the Aluba into the other Masquerade, which is super strong because every card our opponents will activate now will cost them 1200 life points. We are banishing 1 card from our field. You can always do this to get our Albion into the grave, and then now the Albion can set us a Branded Spell or Trap onto the field. Normally you would want to set your Branded in red. Unfortunately this is in the graveyard, so we are setting the second best thing, which is the Branded Banishment. So now when our opponents for example, fusion summon something, we can activate this, get our ad libitum back to the field, and then fusion summon with our ad libitum and his fusion summoned monster into another of our fusion summoned monsters. So what we have here in the end phase, just to quickly check, we have double Masquerade, which is pretty oppressive. We have the Mirror Jade, which is not live at this moment, but can destroy the entire field. We can also get this back if we fusion summon this via the ad libitum we have engrave here, and via, we have engrave here, and via our Branded Banishment. We also have Maxi. Even without Maxi, this would be a really strong hand, and you will see in a moment that we do not even need the Maxi, or basically cannot use the Maxi. And we have a Halfness, which can already mill free on our next turn if our opponent activates a monster on the field. So this is not a duel which goes long, because this board is just oppressive, but I just wanted to show you how strong of an end board you can build, and this is a stronger end board that you can build with Tearlaments, though this is not as consistent as Tearlaments end board is. So he plays obviously Florent Reese, activates a spell, 1200 pay, 1200 pay again, and you can see that he cannot do this for a long time. Now we can activate our Halfness, but he will give up now, realizing that he cannot win, and this is what I meant. We didn't even use our Maxi, because obviously against the Florent Reese player, Maxi is useless. But yeah, we unfortunately mill nothing here, or milled the Merly, but he gave up. And so you can see this is a really strong oppressive board that you can build here. Really strong potential for the Branded Tearlament deck. Let's look at another replay where we are going second, but have some cool going second cards. So he plays the Keldo, drops the Modora. This obviously is Tearlaments. We drop our Maxi, and we are fortunate this gets through. So our opponent's turn is basically over. He searches for the Kelback, which we have to keep in mind, and face, and it's our turn. So let's see what we can do here. Obviously, we can use our Branded opening first, can get the Halfness into the grave, the Aluba onto the field, and now we have this to search our Branded Fusion, and this for a potential fusion summon, which we can do into Kid Colors because we have the King of the Swamp in hand, which is awesome. Unfortunately, obviously, he has the Modora, can shuffle back our Branded opening, and our Halfness Branded opening shuffle back makes sense because this protects our fusion monsters from being destroyed. So this obviously goes back into the deck, and yeah. Unfortunately, our grave will not happen here. He, keep in mind, has also the Keldo on the field, which he can shuffle things back into the deck. We are going Branded Fusion. I choose to use the Albas and the Merly. This has some advantages and disadvantages. Advantage being that because this goes to the graveyard, I can now fusion summon with this into Kid. Disadvantage being that I do not use my Despian Tragedy, and so my follow-up plays are weaker because Despian Tragedy can get me my Branded Fusion back and can also get me, for example, the Ad Libitum to my hand. So it's always, think about this decision, is it worth it? In my case, I thought it was, because I have the King of the Swamp in hand to fusion summon Kid Kalos. If the King of the Swamp would not have been in my hand, there would have been, wouldn't make any sense to get the Merly into the grave, because then I cannot fusion summon into the Kid. So we are doing this. I'm dropping the Branded opening once again to protect my fusion summon monsters when something happens, because this can get banished then. I activate my Merly, but he uses his Keldo, sends him to the banish pile, and once again shuffles back my stuff, though now he has used all his shuffle backs on my turn. Lubellion, and we get through to our Predaplant Dragos Tapelia. Note here that because he has shuffled back the Albas, I cannot go into the Mirror Jade, unfortunately, but then decide to go into Dragos Tapelia, because this is also nice to disrupt some of our opponent's on-field plays. He goes Kelback, which is unfortunate because now this goes back into our deck. We have to end this here, and the position is not that great. He goes Mudora and goes Battle Phase. Obviously, with 2 level 4 monsters, he can do, or he can go into XYZ here. Now let's see what he does. He goes into Baguska to buy some time so he can get into more important cards for him. We are drawing Super Polymerization, but unfortunately, yeah, this goes into the defense, and now we can use the Super Poly, get the Banished Banishment to the graveyard. So I was really thinking about what I wanted to use here, but this is a strong card, but the thing is I don't have a Despia card in the graveyard, so it's basically useless, and I thought, okay, Ash Blossom is more important for me. I can go into the Mirror Jade now, which is nice. Unfortunately, I cannot banish anything, so that means I cannot get my Albion to the graveyard, which would have been awesome, because this would have gotten me more branded cards to play with. So we are going direct attack And just to keep, this is what I wanted to show you. Like, this deck in a grind game can do a lot, has a lot of resources, and would have even more resources if our graveyard would not have been so thinned out. So he activates Heartbeat to target one spell or trap on the field, his own by the way, shuffle them into a deck, just to send one card from the hand to the graveyard. Like, this is, obviously this is a disadvantage for him. He sends this, but then decides to give up, and we have won the grind game with Branded Tearlament. And I've got one last game for you. Let's look at it. We are going second. He goes terraforming. Unfortunately, as you can see from our hand, we have nothing to interrupt him with, so other than the halfness. So he goes Flaunderies. He also has this one, so he can tribute our cards, which is always super strong. He goes and drops his Robina that he can now get back to the hand. And unfortunately, notice here, because he has chained it like this one, the field one first, then the banished one second, we cannot chain the halfness because we would have needed to chain the halfness directly to this, and he chained this to this, so we cannot activate our halfness at this point. He goes Robina, obviously we can now then chain our halfness in a moment if nothing special happens. He searches the M-Pen, nothing special right here. He goes Robina, I can now go halfness, because this happened on field. Let's see what we are hitting here. Always check your grave for your hits. This was bad, unfortunately for us. Nothing important in the grave here. He goes M-Pen. M-Pen can now search the Dreaming Town. He can also get his Eaglen back to hand. Then he, for some reason, I'm not quite sure actually, banishes his M-Pen. Obviously the M-Pen effect still goes through, but I was thinking like, okay, why are you doing this? But yeah, he adds another M-Pen. I'm not quite sure what this was about, to be honest. But of course he still has a normal summon after this because of the M-Pen effect. He goes and searches the Dreaming Town, so he can normal summon on our turn. He plays this tree. Now he can banish one card from the graveyard. He banishes Aluba. It doesn't really matter what he banishes. Toucan gets his M-Pen back to the hand, and now can summon another M-Pen, obviously. And activates the M-Pen, activates the Shri, activates the Toucan to get this back to hand. So this is so annoying against Flaunderies. This deck takes a lot of time because there are a lot of chains that need to resolve. I find this really annoying. Other than that, I really like the deck. He can now search again. This is maybe the reason why he did it, because now he could basically search to his Dreaming Town and another Flaunderies and the, I think, Advent of Adventure. Yeah, that it is. This is cool because this is the power of these quick play spells that can banish something. Because if I target this, for example, with an infinite impermanence, let's say, they can just use this quick play spell, get this off the field, and then the impermanence does not hit this anymore. So let's continue. He now changes some of his beasts from hand to draw 2 cards, and then can summon again the Razor, puts this back into our deck, and this, I think, on top of the deck, so you can see, and also his Razor back on his deck. And now he plays 2 cards face down. This is the Dreaming Town, so he can normal summon. If we normal summon, he can normal summon. And he also can tribute our monsters for his tribute summons, our cards, that is, not only our monsters. We will draw Maxi, which is dead, so the situation looks bleak, to say the least. We are drawing the Maxi, as we already saw. This is dead against Flaunderies, unfortunately. We are going Branded Opening. We are getting this to the grave, and let's say that, because I could have gotten the Chiron to the grave, but obviously by getting the Chiron to the grave, I could have better choose the King of the Swamp to have this in grave for future fusion summoning, and also I can still use the Chiron now. I get Aluba, search for the Branded Fusion. He goes for his normal summon plays, normal summon Robina, and now we basically have to sit through his normal summons. I will speed this up a bit. He gets Robina back to the hand, can now normal summon again, also searches Stree, can banish my King of the Swamp, which is super unfortunate because now I cannot use it for the Chiron Kid Carlos fusion summon. He then tributes my monster and his for another M-Pen. M-Pen, go search, go add this back to the hand. Searches for another Dreaming Town for the next turn. Eaglen searches for the Apex Avian, which can or works as a quick effect negate activation, and also the M-Pen obviously had the effect that every special summon monster in attack position cannot activate the effect of itself. So yeah, He gets the Eagle back to hand, and basically now we are back on our turn. But remember that this also allows him, if we do a normal summon, to again normal summon, so he can do more stuff on our turn. We are going Chiron, we are dropping the Maxi because Maxi we don't need. We have milled a Chiron, which is nice, and have milled a branded Retribution, which can add back anything of this to our hand, or also our Brand Fusion that we still have in hand. But we have also dropped the Chiron. This is not important in this matchup. Activate the Chiron. He does the negation, so we do not get the Fusion Summon here. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we still have the Branded Fusion left. So this is what we are going to do next. Branded Fusion. We are dropping Albas and another Merly to Fusion Summon again. And we can still use this effect and discard this. Also have the Merly Fusion Summon from the graveyard. So this is what we are going to do. Merly into, I think, the Kid here. Makes sense. Kid, I need to do this in the defense because this is still up on the field. And now we can go into our Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon, which is just like the card of the game. We activate this, get our Merly to the hand. And now we activate the Mirror Jade, Albion to the grave. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I would have targeted this here to banish this, and now he can activate this, banish it itself, and now there is no target and I need to banish my own cards, which is okay in this point because I can just banish my own Chiron. It's alright, it's not the end of the world, which I will do now. It's okay, we still have the Albion in the grave, which is important. Activate Kid Colors, summon the Merly. We have the mill 8 here. Let's see what we mill. 1, 2, as I already said, to protect from halfness. So it's not really important here, but it's good manners, good habits, habit building. And we have hit the Suliac and the halfness, which we can now use both. And the Despian Tragedy, which we can also use to get a Despian monster into our hand. We get Ad Libitum. Then second chain, we Fusion Summon into our Rule Carlos, which we can now Drogostopelia, sorry, yeah, makes more sense, by the way, because Drogostopelia can then negate the birds on his turn. The Rule Cards would not have make any sense because Rule Cards can stop special summons, and there are no special summons here. We are getting the halfness, and then we can activate this. This was a mistake, by the way. I should have activated. Oh no, forget what I'm saying. It's alright. We are attacking here, attacking once again, and in the end phase, we obviously have the possibility to use the Albion effect. Here I use one of the Shufflers to get some resources back into my deck, because I do not need the Shufflers for his graveyard. We are setting the Branded in red to be able to make a Guardian Chimera on his turn, and we are passing over. At the start of the turn I go add back the Jester of Despia, and now we are going into the Guardian Chimera. This is the basic play I talked about. You go Guardian Chimera, you use your Ad Libitum for it, and then you can also use your Mirror Jade. And what happens now is, of course, I can draw 2 cards, destroy 1, and the Mirror Jade will get summoned back by the Ad Libitum, and when this gets summoned back, this again has its effect ready. So this is a new Mirror Jade who can now use the effect. Guardian, draw 1, destroy 2. We destroy everything back to him. We can still negate something here. Still have the Mirror Jade. He has evenly matched. I mean, come on. I activate this just to have it activated so I can get the Albion into the grave. Activate this. Get the Albion into the grave, and now I am going to only have the Drogostopelia on the board so I can negate his bird, because this basically means his play ends here. Given that he does not have another like field spell at the ready. So Drogostopelia, we negate this. Negate. So this means his turn basically ends if he has no further follow-up. Let's see. He gets the Bina back to hand, which he now cannot summon because there is no future or further normal summon, and he gives up with a full hand. This was a pretty cool game and shows how good the deck can like survive and grind in a longer game. Also, we went second and were able to break a really good flow on the Reese board, which also can show you how much this deck can do. I hope you liked the video. If that is the case, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. Also, write me in the comments if you have played the Branded SPR strategy with or without Tearlaments, if you want to invest for it in the future, and what do you think of this deck. Write me in the comment, and we will see each other in the next one.